over to Sarah Brason. I met Sarah at the World Mental Health Forum when there was a summit last October, and we've stayed in touch. And I knew her initially as a marketing guru, a little whiz kid, but actually what she is now growing into is through her circumstance, that a story that she will tell you, finding life, finding light after loss. And when I heard her talk, it resonated with me and made me realize that we all have so much to learn. And she's gone through the difficult journey of learning that for herself. And today she said that she would share that with you as well. So thank you for coming today, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Over to you, my love.
Thank you very much. What an honour to be here. Although to be called a guru and a genius before I've even said anything is a pedestal indeed. So I hope I don't fall off of that. So I'm going to share my screen with you, lovely people, now, which is down here. So share that. Hopefully you can all see that. Thumbs up. Thank you very much, Alan. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here, to be honest. Thank you to Gill and this wonderful community that you've built for the opportunity to talk to you today. So unsurprisingly, I'm going to talk about grief and how it affects us all. It's one of the most universal human experiences, and yet it's one of the least talked about. And whether your loss is recent or many years ago, named, complicated, personal or professional, it's absolutely all welcome. And hopefully this will really help you understand your grief a bit better and move through it in a bit with a bit more ease. So the spaces I create are not about fixing, rushing, or telling anyone how you should feel, because as Gill rightly said already, we all experience grief differently and we all heal differently in our own way. Grief isn't a problem to solve. It's a human experience to be met. And today is about understanding that, hopefully a little bit more, and softening around it, and perhaps finding a little bit of steadiness too. So I'm a grief navigator, grief coach, and my work is about walking alongside people in their suffering at home and also as training in the workplace. Not to erase your loss, but to help you find peace alongside it. And this is really important for me. My understanding of grief not only comes from my professional training, but from my lived experience of loss in its many forms. One of my biggest and most profound experiences was 11 years ago, when I lost my second daughter. So Rowan had a heart condition and she died before she was born. In fact, I've got 3 children, 2 living and Rowan, and she was the only one I gave birth to naturally. So it's a really special connection I have with Rowan. And I've come on a long journey in these 10, 11 years. And it's a real privilege to be able to share my experience in the hope of helping somebody else get to the point where I have got to, where I can live alongside this. Doesn't mean it's not painful sometimes. That's grief, and that's part of what we have to accept. But I can talk about her without bursting into tears, and I can be grateful for all that she's given me, and she has given me so much. I wouldn't be doing this work today if it wasn't for Rowan, so it's really, really special. And to echo what Gill said in the beginning, I just want to say, if at any point in the next 50 minutes you need to step away, turn your screen off or take a breath, please do. And if emotions rise, it's not a sign you're doing any of this wrong. It's actually a sign that you're human. So please give yourself space if you need to. As I said before, grief is not an illness. It's not something to fix. It's a human experience. And grief, however it manifests for you, doesn't follow a set process or a specific time frame. It's completely sporadic, as some of you will very much know, and you might be grieving at this moment. It's difficult, yes, but we can learn to live alongside it without carrying the heaviness of any suffering or sorrow. And I'm here today to kind of explain a little bit more about how that's possible. Because grief changes us, we evolve. I know I certainly have, and not always negatively. It can make you stronger too. We can heal the wound, but we will always carry the scar, and it changes you. And this is part of what I will touch on today. So there are many types of grief. And one of my most important messages really is that it's not just about death. We feel grief when we get divorced, when we're estranged from children or parents. I know my husband hasn't seen his children from his first marriage. It will be 5 years this Christmas. That's hard. We experience grief when we are made redundant, or selling a business that you've poured your life into. Even though it might be your choice, there's still grief within that experience. Becoming a carer, caring for someone who has dementia, or just realizing that the life you planned isn't the one that you're living. All these things hold grief. And there's anticipatory grief, which again, people talk even less about, grieving the loss before it happens, as I've said, as a loved one or caring for someone with a terminal illness. Collective grief, the shared trauma after a natural disaster, during a war, or throughout a global pandemic. And this is something that we all did experience in our own way. We don't talk about it, but grief isn't rare. It's just sometimes very well hidden, especially in professional settings. And it's a hugely complex subject. And I urge you to please consider your own unique grief experiences and how this could be applicable to you or your team in a professional setting. It's a natural response to losing something or someone meaningful, and no one escapes it, and we'll all experience grief. And you're never alone in what you're feeling or what you're experiencing or your reactions to your experiences. Grief, it isn't just about how we feel. I think when we explain it to children, and when I go into schools and explain this, I kind of say it's that sad or angry feeling that you get when you lose something, or something changes, or somebody dies. And they understand that, but it also affects us physically, emotionally, yes, but cognitively as well, and spiritually. We haven't got time to cover all of this today, but I wanted to focus on the emotional aspects of grief, because when we name what we feel, we reduce our fear around it, and we stop judging our own experiences. We begin to meet grief with compassion instead of resistance. So grief isn't one feeling. I mean, you could say it's many, or you could say all. Sometimes I just say all, because it can be a mix of lots of different things. The emotional landscape we walk through encompasses all of the ones that are on the screen and many, many more. And I add some of these on here, and some of them might surprise you, and that's kind of the point. All are absolutely normal. All absolutely belong in your experience of grief, and there's no right way to grieve. We've probably all heard of the 5 stages of grief, right? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did an incredible thing and created the 5 steps, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But she created this in order to understand the dying process for somebody who'd been given themselves a terminal illness or end of life kind of diagnosis. So it's now been applied to all types of loss, but it doesn't really work like that. It doesn't come in stages. It's not a staircase that we can just climb in our way to reaching acceptance. It's a tide, and as much as tides do, grief shifts. It comes in and out, and in fact, some of my clients like to think of a spiral. Quite often, you'll find that there will be repetitive emotions that come round, and this can feel really soul destroying in some ways, or demoralizing, because you think, gosh, I'm stuck. I'm really stuck in this and I can't seem to work through it. But actually what's happening when you're receiving those emotions over and over again is that your body is working through a different part of that emotion each time. And to think of a spiral, which is it's going through the same sections each time, but it's actually different each time. This can be a really useful way to understand your own grief. Because it shows that actually this is a natural part of your healing process. And each time you're experiencing these, you're coming at it from different perspectives, and it's your nervous system's way of releasing another element of that grief caught up in that emotion. And so that can be a really helpful way to understand why you're experiencing the same emotions over and over again. Some of the emotions that we can feel, and I know I experienced this, relief was one of my very strong emotions that I pushed away for a long time, because feeling these surprising emotions can make you feel disloyal to the person you're grieving, or that you're not grieving properly, or that something's wrong, but they're absolutely all normal. And in fact, I'm reading a couple of books about neuroscience at the moment, and they kind of demonstrate that experience positive and negative feelings at the same time is absolutely possible when you're grieving. They light up overlapping parts of the brain. It can be really confusing to feel, but this is absolutely normal. And I think if you take anything away from today, it's that your response to what you're experiencing is normal. If you're experiencing it, then it's right for you. The gratitude also shocked me a lot. And this was something that appeared probably 2 years ago, so a long way into my grief journey. I am grateful that Rowan came to me. And despite the fact I wish she'd stayed, I'm super grateful that she didn't in some way too, because her death has taught me so much. And I wouldn't, as I said, be able to be here if she hadn't died, doing what I am now. So please don't beat yourself up for what's true for you. Because ultimately experiencing gratitude or hope or joy amidst grief is not a failure of mourning at all. It's actually a testament to the fact that your heart, even broken, still works. And it's trying to find its way towards healing. So I don't need to tell any of you here, but grief is hard. I haven't got a magic pill. There's no magic one. Grief is hard. This is the evolutionary phase that we have to go through. And our instinct to survive in the beginning is to hide. That's a natural and normal response. But by pushing it away and hiding from it for too long, it doesn't help you in the long term. And again, this is something that I've personally experienced as well. I distracted myself. I kept really busy. And I held really tightly onto the pain. For me, it was one of the very few things that me and Rowan shared. And so without it, what did I have, right? But we can become scared of letting go. And I held on to the pain for too long. But I've absolutely learned that unexpressed grief doesn't disappear. It just waits for you. Avoidance offers relief, yes, absolutely. And if you need to do that for a period of time, fine, but it's not healing. And that you're stronger than you think you are. Because if you can find the space to face grief, it doesn't actually shatter you, it softens you. It will release you, and it's so tiring pretending we're okay when we're not, right? I mean, we all do this far more than we should. But turn to face it. That's my kind of ringing plea today, is find that space, because you are stronger than you think. And when you face it, you don't break apart, you break open. This is one of my favorite analogies, and it's too much for some people, but I think you guys would be absolutely cool with it. So the way I look at us when we're grieving as human beings is that we are seeds. Because in order to grow, a seed must break, right? It has to split wide open for something new to emerge from the middle. And we're the same. Because in darkness, beneath the surface, that's where transformation begins. Grief can break us open, yes, but not to end us, but to allow us new meaning, to our own experiences, our own life, our own purpose. This is the beauty that I've found in my grieving process. And when you have a look at this picture, we're not the husks left on the ground, which is what we fear, but we're the seedling. We're that new shoot growing into something new, with new opportunities, new strength, new resilience that you probably didn't even know that you had. So what can we hope for as we grieve? At first, just withstanding the pain, as I said, your initial response to whatever you need, whether that's being out in public, whether it's hiding yourself away, whether it's speaking, whether it's not speaking, do that. Do what feels right. But eventually we can start focusing on the future. What does this mean for me now? Who am I now? I've experienced this grief, whatever it is, a person, redundancy, there's lots of things, divorce. Who am I now? Because that identity shift and understanding that is really important to how we maneuver through this, because we want to heal, right? We want to re-engage with life. And I want you to know that you absolutely can. And if you have already read this slide, I'd urge you to read it again. Peace does not arrive when grief is gone. It arrives when it's welcomed, when it's felt, and when it's heard. When love and loss can sit side by side without being forced apart. That's where healing really hides for you. And I'd urge you not to fear the silence. We can fear it. I know I did, again. But making space to sit alongside your grief makes such a huge difference to your healing. Make space for the responses to this new normal for good. The good, the bad, and the surprising emotions that might come up. Sit quietly. Take the time. take a walk in nature. It's such a beautiful, healing place. It'd be nice if we could all go to Alan Brown's beach there and have a nice walk along there. That would be beautiful. Meditate whatever way you can to create space for yourself that feels comfortable. I urge you to create it. And if you don't want to do this alone, then I'm here for you. I help in lots of different ways. Training in workplaces, one-to-one grief coaching. I even host a free monthly gathering called Grief Space, where everybody is welcome. You book a seat. There's only 20 spaces to keep it small. It will always be free. It's a way for me to support those people who might not have the capacity or the finances to help themselves in other ways. But you're not alone in how you're feeling, in how you want to heal and get better. So yeah, reach out to me if you want to find out more. I hope this has been helpful to all of you. And again, thank you for, Gill, thank you for trusting me and for giving me the opportunity to share this brief insight into my understanding of what grief is. I hope you've all left with a bit more understanding about how and why we experience this and how we can move through it a little bit better.
Thank you, Sarah.